This is the VivoBarefoot Tracker Winter SG Mark II. I was supposed to be testing them out for an upcoming video, but I managed to actually break them when I was dragging my foot out of a hole on an overnight hike, and breaking your boots on a trip, especially in the backcountry, can spell disaster. So I'm going to show you the easiest way to repair your boots in the field using basic equipment that you should be carrying in your hiking loadout. Specifically, I'm going to be utilizing a toothbrush, a knife, and some items from a well-wrapped first aid kit that should contain some alcohol gel and of course some super glue. So the damage that we're actually looking to fix is just on the sole of the boot. What we've got is a little bit of separation, which you can just about make out there. And while I appreciate that that isn't a huge amount of damage, it is something that can lead to a full-blown sole separation. The reason I'm not showing you guys how to fix a full-blown sole separation on these boots is, one, because I've been prepared enough to make sure I'm checking my boots so they're not getting to that stage, and two, because the process is the exact same. It's just a lot more labor intensive, and if you've let your boots get to that state, then frankly you deserve to do the work. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is actually clean out some of the debris that is in the boot at the moment. We're going to use the toothbrush for that and a little bit of alcohol sanitizer. Now, ideal world, if you're in the backcountry, then you would be setting up your tent to do this, but we want to get those bristles right down into this hole. We're looking to dislodge as much debris as we possibly can before we actually start opening this area up a little bit so we can get some super glue in there. And you can see a big wad of what looks like wood that's managed to get in there. And if we'd sealed that up with that wood still in, then that seal would not be good. It would split open again at some point in future. You can actually see a little bit more debris in there that the toothbrush just isn't quite getting. So I'm going to turn to the knife now. The knife I'm using is a very basic Opinel Carbone knife, super sharp, very, very cheap, easy to carry with you. And I'm going to use that just to get out that little bit of debris that I can see in there. That's that out there now. And then I'm just going to start digging around to make sure there's nothing else left. There is. There it is. All right, and we're looking pretty clean in there now. The next part of this process is to actually open this up. All of the glue and the resin that's been binding these boots together has clearly failed us. That's why we've got this split happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear out a little bit more of that resin, open up this cut just a touch, so that when we apply some new glue and resin in there, it's got a nice strong surface to bond to. And the way that we're doing this is just simple back and forward motions. I'm not looking to go down too hard. I'm not looking to puncture the sole, nor am I looking to pull into the actual rand. So there we go. That's a nice little bit of split on one side. Now just for the other. Careful your fingers while you're doing this. And we can see as we're doing this, we're dislodging more and more debris. There we go. So now that we've exposed some nice fresh glue, I'm going to put my knife off to one side, and then we're going to repeat that same process. So a little bit of alcohol sanitizer onto the tip of the toothbrush, which we're then getting down into that hole, giving it a good old scrub, making sure that is nice and clean. Perfect. So now what we've got is this slightly larger hole than before, but what it is really nice and clean. There's no dirt, there's no debris in there. That's going to give us the best opportunity to get a good seal. Now, I'm using Gorilla Glue. This is something that I always keep in my medical kit whenever I go hiking. I've been in a couple of situations before where I've had large open wounds, and although the general practice isn't to use super glue, it is a very effective binder when you're in the arse end of nowhere. So I always use this. If you haven't used it before, you can get irritation on the skin, so only use it if you absolutely have to, but it's really worthwhile having this on hand. You can also use it for tents and stuff like that. And although there are specific products for binding boots, I'm not going to use them purely because the curing time is normally a lot longer, and although yes, it might give me more longevity, I'm not going to carry a specific boot repair kit with me when I'm going backcountry hiking. To get a really good bond on this, we first need to make some small incisions into both the sole of the boot and to scuff up the leather a little bit. That's just going to make sure that the glue has got the best possible surface to bind onto. You don't need to do anything crazy here, just some small and light incisions into the rubber. My preference is always going for a little crosshatch. There we go. And I'm going to do that on the other side as well. They don't need to be super deep, just enough to give the glue an extra little bit of purchase. If you have sandpaper, that also works really well. Equally, if you've got a Leatherman with that sort of grate function, I can't remember what it's called right now, that also works really nicely. So That's good and cleared out now. Before we apply the glue, we do need to try and get that dry. So what I'm going to do is my last little bit of preparation. Firstly is changing the laces. We want to make sure we're putting as little stress into this as possible. So I'm just going to quickly deload these laces here. And all I'm looking to do when I relace these boots is change the lacing structure so I'm not loading into this eyelet right here. If I pull these boots taut just after I bound it with glue, if I pull these taut, then there's a good chance that I'm going to pull that leather away from that nice seal that I've just made. So all I'm going to do is, taking that lace, we're just going to skip that one out, and then from here we're just going to go on with our normal lacing. You do have to get a little bit inventive sometimes, but this makes a big difference and it will certainly help when you're making a good seal. So that's the slightly modified lacing. You can see how it's just going to alleviate a little bit of pressure there. It can be enough between a good seal that will last for a little while and a bad seal that's just going to blow right open. Once we've got our laces set, next thing we need to do is try and get some of the moisture out of the sole itself. If you've got moisture in there, the super glue will still bind. It's not going to be the strongest bind though. If you have access to a tent while you're doing this, it'll make a huge difference. If you don't have access to a tent, like me at the minute, you're going to have to sacrifice some good old toilet paper for this repair. I'm actually going to do this in 2 stages. So first little bit, I'm just going to dab her in. Try and collect as much moisture out of there as I possibly can. There it is. I'm going to repeat that one more time, trying not to leave debris where I can. So I'm just going to use a little bit of alcohol gel. Tiny little bit of alcohol gel, dab it in. Give it all a pull. Now we have a nice, clean, prepared surface. It's a slightly wider opening than it was when we started this video, but that's only going to give us a better chance of seal. And then from there, it's a simple case of getting some super glue, nozzle down inside, and just some little spurts running down the entire length of that boot. I'm going to close that off, set it off to one side. And then we're just going to squeeze that closed, taking a lot of care not to get that on our fingers. Now this stuff sets in really quickly, Gorilla Glue. So we're just going to be holding this for maybe 20 seconds, maybe 60 seconds. Again, it'd be really helpful if I didn't have rain coming down on this right now. There we go. I'll use that to get a nice even seal. And once this is bed in, the cure time is normally about 10 hours. The best time to do this sort of repair work is at the end of a long hiking day when you're setting up your tent, probably before you cook dinner. If you get this sort of repair done then, put the boot in your tent, give it some time to just chill out, let the super glue cure, then this can last you for quite a long time. I've had these sorts of repairs on a long hiking trips last for a week, week and a half, 2 weeks. And when you get back to humanity, then obviously you can do a slightly better job of it. But I've also seen these repairs, you know, last for years on some boots that I use infrequently. All right, so there we go. It's been about 60 seconds now. I'm just going to slowly release that tension. And what we have there is a nice sealed boot. Now it is going to take, as I say, about 12 to 20 hours for this to fully dry out and get a good seal. Once that's done, I'm just going to come back along with some more super glue and just give that little top off right the way from the good seal all the way over the bad seal back onto the good seal again, just to make I've got a nice strong bond. But that is a quick, easy and simple way to repair your boots in the field with minimal equipment. A knife, some alcohol gel, some super glue, and a toothbrush is really all you need, and it can be an absolute game changer to stop you from getting stranded in the wild. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've got any questions about the repair process, let me know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, have an awesome day. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again soon.